people, we're back in Portsmouth, and this week we've got Dave Humphries of Shaping Portsmouth.
Shaping Portsmouth is a non-profit organisation. We are formed, funded and led by key Portsmouth businesses, currently 80 of them, and our purpose is to deliver innovative social value programmes, all with the view to make Portsmouth the number one UK city in which to invest, live, learn, work and visit. You've got to recognise that Portsmouth is an ecosystem. If we improve the city, it's good for everyone.
Being dual heritage myself, having a black mother and a white dad, when I came along to Shaping Portsmouth events, I don't see a strong black presence. Have you got any views on that?
Completely agree with you. It's a problem. It's absolutely a problem that we need to accept and need to do something about.
So, Dave, welcome to the What's Going On show.
Welcome to Shaping Portsmouth.
Thank you. It's the first time I've actually been here, and it's just disclaimer: my voice is ruined today, so if I do sound croaky on the mic, everyone, I apologise. But yeah, Dave, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you.
I'm really looking forward to today. So, before we begin, I've got a little introduction. Mm-hmm. Or a little tradition, I should say. And instead of me giving you an introduction, I'd like to give it straight over to you. So who in a nutshell is Dave Humphries?
So, in a nutshell, Dave Humphries is CEO of Shaping Portsmouth. I'm a retired police officer, 30 years working for Hampshire Constabulary, about 18 of those in Portsmouth. And all the others very close to. I'm a dad, a husband. I'm the stepfather of a severely learning disabled young adult, and I do a lot of work in this sort of adult social care learning disability area in relation to that. And I suppose because of my past career, I'm kind of really big on kindness, fairness, inclusion, community, which is probably what brought me into Shaping Portsmouth.
Interesting. So I always find that interesting when people introduce themselves. Because you see people take all different angles,
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you say it was 30 years in the police.
Yeah.
What fueled you to actually go into the police?
I suppose it was something that was always in the back of my mind. I'd kind of left school after A-levels and not gone to university. I tried working in an office job doing sort of accounts, and I kind of looked out of the window every day thinking, this is it for, the view will never change, the desk will never change, the numbers vary, but other than that, can I do this for the rest of my life? And I knew some people in the police. It just looked interesting. It felt like something you could do and really make a difference. And so I joined the police. And that's what brought me to Portsmouth, because I don't come from Portsmouth originally. I grew up in Salisbury, so in Wiltshire, just down the road. And when I went to join the police, the person who was a family friend that I was talking to said, don't apply for us, apply for Hampshire next door, they're much better. Ended up in Portsmouth, probably because of what's best described as a bit of a practical joke by the then Chief Constable, the late Sir John Hoddinott. When back in those days, early 90s, when you joined the police, you went through interviews, like physical tests, all of that, and then the final bit was this 2-day selection, and you had to give a presentation, and my presentation topic was assaults on police officers. And that particular day, John Hoddinott decided to chair the panel himself. So I presented to him, and in my research I identified that Fratton in Portsmouth had the highest rate of assaults on officers of anywhere in the force. So at the end of the process, when they tell you there and then whether you're successful or not. He said to me, I see you're not from Hampshire. Any thoughts on where you'd like to be posted? So I said, tongue in cheek, bearing in mind the presentation I've just given you, anywhere but Fratton would be particularly good. Week later, posting signed by him to Fratton. And the rest is history.
So down in Fratton, in the thick of it.
Yeah. So I came from sort of a rural backwater of Salisbury, just living in a sort of village on the outskirts of Salisbury, to the heart of Fratton. So it was a bit of an eye opener.
Wow, you say a bit of an eye opener, but in the first few months, what did open your eyes?
I can remember my first day at the station, because you go into like training school for your first week and get your uniform and all that sort of stuff, and then you come out and you do 2 weeks of attachments at where you're going to work. So I came to Fratton for the first time. It was a late shift, and I turned up at Kingston Crescent Police Station and met the sergeant and a few introductions, and then I got put in a car with an officer, and the first job we got was a fight in a pub, and the report was that one guy had an axe, and they put the blues and tattoos on, and off we went. And you're kind of, wow, this is exciting, but we are driving as fast as we can towards someone who's got an axe. Is this really such a good idea?
Jeez.
And yeah, it kind of then just progressed from there. I suppose in policing, Portsmouth is a really interesting place to work because it's unrelenting. The volume of work, you didn't really have down moments in your shifts. Even at sort of 2 o'clock in the morning, you'd end up down on the seafront outside the clubs, and so it was pretty full on. You were always on the go, but I worked with great people, and it was great fun, and sometimes the really horrendous things you deal with, you might think, that must be awful going to do that. Going to tell someone their son's died, is probably about as horrible as it gets. But actually, sometimes you think, I'm glad it's me that they've got, because I can do my best for them. This is going to be horrible, whatever, but I can do my absolute best to make this as good as possible. There's a friend of mine always used to say, when bad things happen, look for the helpers, because they will always be there. And when things go really wrong, you look at a terrorist attack, and you have, like, the day it happens, you have all those horror stories of what happens. But the following day, you start hearing about all the heroic members of the public that stepped in and helped and did things. The helpers are always there. Always look for the helpers.
Wow. Always look for the helpers.
Yeah.
Okay. So would you see yourself as a helper?
Yeah. That's what brought me into this job with Shaping Portsmouth. Is what drives me in a lot of the stuff I do in adult social care and learning disability. I can help others. I've got a bit of legal acumen from policing. I managed prosecutions and custody for Portsmouth for 3 years. So I'm fairly comfortable in a court. But there are lots of people that aren't. And, I can help people navigate other things like adult social care law, learning disability because of that. And Shaping Portsmouth is exactly the same. We're trying to make a difference across the city. So I can help people, I can help businesses, I can help schools. I just love it. It's great.
I get that. So, excuse me. So, as an ex-police officer, in your opinion, why is there such a stigma between or about the police in the opinion of the public?
It's difficult. Right at the heart of policing is something called the Pelian principles. the principles that Sir Robert Peel founded the British policing model on. And one of those, or the essence of them all, to be fair, is essentially the public are the police and the police are the public. You've got to, in a model where you police by consent, you've got to have the trust of the public. And there really does need to be a focus on that. And that comes from transparency, openness, people knowing and having confidence in their local police. And I think things that damage that, they create that stigma and that divide, kind of polarise the public and the police. It becomes us and them. I joined an organisation long before mobile phones existed, and CCTV was just becoming a thing sort of routinely. But if I got into a fight at 10 o'clock at night in London Road in North End, and I was on my own, I could be fairly confident that very quickly 2 or 3 members of the public would jump in and help me out. Does that happen anymore? I think people stand around and start videoing stuff. It's really difficult how the dynamics changed. So having that public confidence is crucial to our whole model, and unfortunately things happen in policing that affect that confidence. Some of it is around culture. That there's no doubt there's cultural issues, but the Labour government, when they were in power, had a big drive on confidence figures, and they would have this national confidence survey in policing. And we would look at our results in Hampshire, and then the Met, something silly would happen in the Met, and our results would plummet because everyone would that's policing. But it wasn't policing here. It wasn't your local cops. It was somewhere else, but it affected everyone's view of policing. So I think there's not a silver bullet that's going to solve that problem. But you start with engaging your communities, you start with building trust, and you start with involving the public in local policing, whether it's scrutiny panels, whether it's forums, but you combat division and polarisation by bringing people together, and that applies equally in policing as it does to other things.
I understand. So you said that you became a police officer just as they were introducing CCTV, before the introduction of mobile phones. Now, where do you see the future of policing going? I mean, you said there that it is more scrutiny, it is more public involvement, but with the onset and increase of social media use and smartphones and all the rest of it, where do you see policing in, let's say, the next 10 years?
That's a difficult one. I mean, I'm not there anymore, so it's not my problem to worry about. I think any of the public services struggle to get on top of technology and advancements in the way that the private sector do. If you're that private sector business that's spotted the way things are going early and follows that path or gets ahead of it, you're going to do really, really well. But the public sector, especially with government money and cuts on funding and stuff, you can't do that. So I think things like AI and data warehousing and actually pooling data together and using tech to understand what that's telling you, interpret it, be predictive, understand what's going on in communities. I think that's going to become quite crucial, and I think we're going to see a lot of that as the tech develops. But you've got businesses that are doing that really well already, and the public sector aren't. So I think it's natural, but I think it comes down to basics that you talk to the public, they still want visible police presence on their streets. You still want to see a cop walk in the beat. You still want to stop and say hello to your local bobby at the school gates. You still want your kids to know who they are and meet them in school. All of that basic stuff. It's community engagement. It's really, really important. And I think, I don't know what's going to go on with social media. It's a, that's a can of worms I don't want to have to unpack. But social media drives a lot of division. You've got, social media echo chambers. So you've got people that are just hearing one narrative and are missing the whole story, and their thinking's affected by that. And I think to combat that, you've got to be strong at the basics. You've got to be visible in your community. You've got to get out and engage people. And I think we're starting to see it, with perhaps police and crime commissioners becoming less political and more focused on the community side of things. The devolution model, where you'll have a devolved mayor who will have ownership of policing. I think that might help drive that as well. So I would hope that we will see some of that back to basics stuff becoming better. I would hope that we'll see more public spending, because there's no two ways about it. Policing has been absolutely slashed. So
Well, the underlying message I got through there is we hope. We hope. We hope. That's all we can do. It's all we can do.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So moving on then. So what I'm getting is, it's just a lot of, you are passionate about the community, and how people build the community that they live in. Now moving on to Shaping Portsmouth. So you obviously said why you got involved with Shaping Portsmouth, but did you know how big of a task it would be when you joined?
Oh, God, no. No. I was probably a bit unsure as to what it was when I applied for the job, and then through the selection process, which was quite competitive, I kind of did more research, found out more, and started getting my head around it. But the reality of what Shaping Portsmouth is as an organisation probably didn't even hit me immediately when I started the role. It was something that sort of kind of over the first 6 months became really apparent. And I guess there's people that are going to be watching or listening that are not familiar with what Shaping Portsmouth is. So Shaping Portsmouth is a non-profit organisation. We are formed, funded and led by key Portsmouth businesses, currently 80 of them. So we're in effect a business collaboration, and our purpose is to deliver innovative social value programmes, which we do targeting business, education and community, all with the view to make Portsmouth the number one UK city in which to invest, live, learn, work and visit. Now, right at the heart of that, you've got to recognise that Portsmouth is an ecosystem. Everything is dependent on everything else, which is why our social value programmes are focused on those three areas: business, education and community, because that pretty much covers everything. And if you want to have good economic growth in the city and a really thriving business community, you need good education, you need good community. Likewise, if you want to have good education, you need the business to support it. You need strong local authority, you need great community educations. And likewise, the community and the charity sector does some amazing things, but they need help as well. So right at the heart of Shaping Portsmouth is our mission, our little strapline: transforming Portsmouth together. The key word in that is together. And you've got 80 businesses. Some of those all work in exactly the same space. But it's not about competition. It's about community over competition. It's about everyone recognising that if we improve the city, it's good for everyone. and we don't need to be competitive about that. So businesses work together, and we can do some really amazing stuff because of that.
Interesting. So, who founded it then?
So, I am the 4th CEO.
Okay.
So I have 3 predecessors. And I think it's probably fair to say that through each one, the organisation has been through a different stage in how it's grown. But right at the start, we have Portsmouth City Council writing an economic development and regeneration plan strategy, looking at that and thinking, okay, a lot of the actions in this plan don't sit with the council, they sit with the business community. But how do you get the business community to work together to do things? How do you get all of the Portsmouth businesses to work together to promote tourism in the city, for instance, or business support or education? How do you do that? So they pulled together a meeting at Lakeside, and how I understand it, it was 12 key businesses at that point, and those businesses all agreed to throw some money each into a pot and employ 2 people on a part-time basis to start doing some of that coordination work, and we've grown from there.
Wow. So how big are you now?
There's currently 7 employees on the team. Kind of got them down a little bit at the moment, and we've probably got about 200 volunteers attached to us, but within that there's probably sort of 60 or 70 that are really, really active doing loads of stuff. We've got, across those 3 pillars of business, education and community, we've got 14 programmes that we're delivering. Each of those programmes has 2 volunteer leads, co-leads, that are all volunteers from business. So yeah, we are a small team, but we've got that whole business community behind us. We've got all of the expertise of those great businesses throughout the city.
Interesting. So I love that. One thing I want to touch on is the together principle. Now, you said that there isn't, when everyone works with Shaping Portsmouth, there isn't competition. But then, how do you ensure, I mean, I know it's a common goal, but how do you ensure then that when they sort of step back from Shaping Portsmouth, that they don't destroy each other in business and they cease each other from existing?
Well, the short answer is I don't. It's not my problem. But well, I suppose it is, because you don't want businesses destroying each other, because it's not great for economic growth. But they don't. I think it works in Portsmouth, and I put it down to island mentality. I think the inward focus that island mentality that Portsmouth has as an island city creates is not a bad thing, but it's good for community. It's good for people to understand, because it's a much more defined area. They see everything that's happening and everything's going on, and therefore they're a lot keener to work together, because they see what's good for one is good for all. They see that there's enough business, so people help each other and support each other. So we don't find that there are, yeah, of course there are businesses. We've got a number of different marketing companies, a number of different recruitment companies, and a lot of them are in the same space in terms of the clients they're trying to attract, but they're not trying to kill each other in doing that. They probably all wish each other well, and a lot of them specialise in different nuanced things, so it kind of works.
That's interesting. I wanted to touch on that because I'm going to go deeper with that
Yeah.
togetherness. So, we've all seen recently, the flags going up around the city, and this polarisation of views. Let's call it.
Yeah.
What are your views on that? With the whole ethos of Shaping Portsmouth being together.
Polarisation is not a good thing for anyone. It's great to have different views, and at the heart of diversity and inclusion is recognition that different opinions are great, and just because we might not agree on something doesn't make either of us necessarily wrong or our opinions less valid. But how we deal with that between us affects how we each feel, and we could disagree agreeably quite happily, and that's a good thing. When you don't do that and it becomes about polarisation and actually intentionally driving people in different directions, that creates division. That's not good for anyone. That doesn't get stuff done. It causes problems. I think increasingly we've seen that divide, not just in politics, but in all sorts of things. When did it start? Maybe Brexit. But it kind of rolled into COVID, and you kind of had split views on things. And I referenced the social media echo chambers earlier, and I don't think that helps at all. I think social media has driven a lot of that division. Algorithms and advertising have got a lot to answer for there. And do people take all of their news off of one social media source, so get a really warped view and just get fed information that agrees with the opinion they started with? Or do they go out and actively seek a wide range of information sources to get a broad perspective? And I think that's where things go wrong. And then, you have people playing on that division for their own ends. They start to tout fear and disharmony, mistrust, because it suits that agenda that you mistrust or don't like that person, and it creates a problem. So you end up in this environment where you have a load of people saying, it's really patriotic and nice to see flags on lampposts. We do it because we're proud of our country. And if you tell me it's a bad thing, clearly you're not patriotic and you're not proud of your country. Okay, so yeah, it's nice to see our national flag. Perhaps not in that way, but on the flip side of it, you've got a national campaign called Raise the Colours that's not hidden at all. We know what it's about, and that is about division, that is about fear, that is about a particular statement, and that affects certain people in our community, how they feel just walking down the road and seeing that. And that's bad, because why would we want anyone to not feel welcome, not feel valued, not feel safe in our city? We are a small island city. We're one of the densest, if not, I think we are the densest city outside of London in the UK. So we are small. You need some harmony, but we've got that big community focus that I've already mentioned. I think communities are superpower in Portsmouth, and I think we should protect it above anything else. So things that damage that, I don't like.
So, is Shaping Portsmouth doing anything to combat it?
So I suppose it comes down to the kind of them. Who are they? Whose responsibility is it to do things? And you hear people often say, especially about like the company they work for, they do this to us, or they do that, or that. Who is they? There is no they. There's only us. There's only us. So it's down to us to do something about it. So this year we had UK Pride in the city. really great celebration of inclusion. Portsmouth Pride Trust do some amazing stuff as a community organisation around the city. Great for inclusion, great for showing, to bring UK pride to the city, great for showing what an inclusive place Portsmouth is. But yeah, they got some grief, they got some abuse. Portsmouth Historic Quarter did an incredible campaign for fighting with pride, charity supporting LGBTQ plus service people and ex-service people. They got a lot of commentary on the F8 landing craft that they changed the livery for UK Pride. That's not good. But we've got organisations like that. The Pride Year was a good opportunity to showcase inclusion across the city, showcase community, and there was lots of businesses that got involved in that. We saw Baton of Hope in the city recently, which was around mental health, but again, you see lots of different businesses, lots of different people coming together, talking openly, supporting each other. That's that community piece in Portsmouth. It's a great, great thing. And that's just people, you know, like Lara, making a difference in the city. Next year is the city centenary year, 100 years since Portsmouth got city status in 1926. And a lot of people won't realise that Portsmouth wasn't a city before 1926. You know, we're currently sat in Portsmouth Guildhall. 100 years ago today, this was Portsmouth Town Hall. Yeah. It wasn't a Guildhall. So during that year, there's going to be loads of events. There's going to be loads of opportunities to showcase the city. Lots that we can do to drive that positive community message. And we've got to take the opportunity of that. I think it would be really, really easy to say, right, do you know what? There's a lot of division. There's a lot of hate speak. There are a lot of things I don't agree with being said. I'm going to pile in on social media and get involved with that and start trying to fight it. But all you do is you push those social media messages further, and you also generate more opportunity for people with that negative narrative to come back in. You're far better off celebrating all the good stuff, celebrating the positive. So Shaping Portsmouth, as we've already established, is a collaboration of key businesses. So not only have we got the 80 businesses that make up Shaping Portsmouth, we've got 400 businesses signed up to Portsmouth Business Support linked to us. We've got the ear of the wider business community. We've got other businesses that come to our events. Alongside us, we've got some sister organisations. We've got Portsmouth Creates, and we've got the Cultural Collective that kind of look after the whole cultural side of the city. We've got the Hive, who do the third sector and the community sector. We can all work together really, really well. And myself and Andy Grays, who is Andy being the CEO of the Guildhall here, I've been talking about how we maximise that opportunity to use next year to drive that inclusive message, to drive that community message across the city, be more positive about it, and actually try and make people feel safe. You know, when we were talking earlier about confidence in policing,
yeah,
and I said about, you know, something happening in London, it's exactly the same with this. If you don't feel safe in the city, I could give you all the data around whether you are safe or not. It makes no difference. It doesn't change how you feel. So by giving the qualitative stuff, the narrative, putting it out there more, showing that, okay, so some of you have got problems with this or that, but look at all this amazing stuff that goes on in our city all the time. Putting that front and centre and reminding people about how great our city is, I think that's a far better approach.
Good stuff. That's what I'll say to that.
Thank you. And the point is there's no they. There's no they doing this. There's no one I look to. It needs me to actually go and talk to people, and it needs them to say, yes, we're on board, we're going to do something. It needs people like you to jump in and say, I want to be part of this. That's how you create a movement, you know?
I get it. I do get it. So, with that's what's really going on with Shaping Portsmouth this year.
That's just part of it.
That's just part of it.
That's part of it. Still 14 social value programs, loads of good stuff that we're delivering.
That's interesting. I mean, I was going to dive a smidge deeper into that and say, I think it needs to be addressed. So when I know you're pushing for the inclusive, being more inclusive, but being dual heritage myself, having a black mother and a white dad, when I came along to Shaping Portsmouth events, I don't see a strong black presence. And maybe it is due to that feeling, I don't know, we touched on it earlier about mistrust, not knowing about it, not being aware about it. We said again that not a lot of people know about Shaping Portsmouth. Maybe food for thought, but it would be interesting to see how Shaping Portsmouth is, adopted by black-owned businesses in Portsmouth. But yeah, what are your views on that? Have you got any views on that?
I completely agree with you. And it's not just us. Go and talk to Andy, that I mentioned, downstairs in the Guildhall. He'll talk about the ethnic makeup of audiences that come to events, come to theatre, come to concerts, whatever. It's a problem. It's absolutely a problem that we need to accept and need to do something about. We've got Selina Ali, who's linked to Portsmouth Bangladeshi Business Association, also from the university, on our board, and her portfolio on our board is inclusion. It's something that she and I are talking about. We've got some great businesses like Joe Morgan and Engendering Change, Sally Spicer, Talent Included, who are in that EDI space in terms of what they could support businesses with. People like Raja Ali at the Bangladeshi Business Association, but lots of other little community groups that we've got to try and engage and try and get to come to those events. Because actually, when you start looking into it, there's so many fantastic community organisations. You've got the Chinese Business Association, you've got Afghan community, you've got there's lots of different African groups. They're not difficult to find. So you then have to make the effort of going out and talking to them. And I think the thing is, the thing I learned from working in community cohesion in policing is that you don't go to a community and say, right, you're not represented enough here, so this is what's going to happen now. This is what we want you to do. It won't work. You've got to go in and say, right, okay, you don't appear to be engaging with us. How can we better engage you? And ask the questions. But back to your original point, I don't disagree with you one jot, and it's something we have to change.
I'm behind that. So, okay. So you got 7 employees. Are they part-time, full-time?
Yeah.
Full-time? Both? Okay.
Part-time and full-time. I'm part-time.
Okay. You're part-time?
Yeah, part-time CEO.
Yeah. How do you find that? How is it? Because I work closely with CEOs from different organisations, especially third sector organisations, and they work tirelessly. How would you say it is working as a CEO part-time?
So working tirelessly part-time. There is no two ways about it, that it is hard to get it all done in the hours. I think as a CEO, I suppose it's why you do something. And if you do it because you need the wage, it's probably a lot easier to manage that problem. If you do it because you really believe in the vision and you love what you're doing and you're passionate about it, it can become quite consuming, and it can start to take over a lot more time. And that's certainly the problem I find myself having to manage. My wife's pretty good at telling me when I'm getting that blurring of the lines wrong. But yeah, there's definitely, I could do with more hours. There's no shortage of stuff to do. It's one of those jobs where if I had more hours, if I had more staff, if I had more money, there are plenty of things I could use all of that for. There is no shortage.
I get that.
So
Understandable.
yeah.
So, cool. I touched on the CEO part, and you just touched on, led me nicely into the next part, which is about the team. I think you just released a big video, we spoke about it off camera, and it touched on the Portsmouth Ambassadors. So, what is the Portsmouth Ambassador Programme, and who can get involved with it?
So, Portsmouth Ambassadors, let's describe them as passionate Portsmouth people.
PPP.
People that want to make a difference, want to promote our city. So we've got 2 volunteer programme leads. We've got Terence Cavalier over at Delivered Social, who some people will know as the Pompey TikToker, who does a fantastic job promoting all that is good and positive about our city. And Andrew Starr, who is over at Portsmouth University, but he is also a local historian, and does walking tours, a lot of guided stuff, and kind of is big in that culture, and does a lot of work in terms of the twinning of Portsmouth with other cities. So 2 great people ideally placed for that programme. The programme is all about positively promoting Portsmouth. That could be to people that are visiting. It could be outside by pushing it out on social media. It's about creating that momentum. But within that, you create a bank of volunteers that have done some basic induction training about the city, and are essentially acting as ambassadors, Portsmouth ambassadors, and promoting what is good. And they can do that in a number of different ways. Right at the heart of that programme is a very particular group of volunteers, and they are our cruise ambassadors. And they are a group of Portsmouth ambassadors that are specially trained in working in the port. And if you get off of a visiting cruise ship, the first people you will meet when you come down the gangplank onto the quayside are those Portsmouth ambassadors that work on our cruise programme. And Vanessa Busfield, that leads the team up there, and the whole group of ambassadors, they do an amazing job. Come rain, come shine, they meet every ship, even if we get a phone call now from the port that says there's an unscheduled ship coming in tomorrow because it's been diverted. I will guarantee there will be half a dozen of them on that quayside, and they will have all the info, all the leaflets. What better people to find out about where to go and what to do in the city than the people that actually live here and love the city? And they direct you to where you want to go. So, how do you become one? Well, previously you did a little course that was that was a sort of evening course with City of Portsmouth College, and you became an ambassador. You got an ambassador lapel pin. Ooh. And you went onto our register of volunteers. That's kind of fallen a bit by the wayside. So the video that you mentioned is the first part of us relaunching that programme. And every year, beginning of January, we hold the Shaping Portsmouth conference in the morning downstairs in the main auditorium. I hope you're going to be there. We'll make sure you've got an invite. And we're going to relaunch because we are the first, after the initial launch on the 1st of January of the centenary year, we are the first event in the city's centenary year. So we want to relaunch the programme for the centenary, and that film was the first part of advertising that. the wonderful team at Millstream, who are one of our 80 patron businesses, they've produced a film that outlines the programme, and we're going to be looking to recruit new volunteers, and the initial induction is now actually going to be an online course. Again, City of Portsmouth College putting that together for us. But when you've done that initial course, you can then do different modules. You could focus on history, attractions, the port. You could do all sorts of different things. And we're going to build up a bank of volunteers that we are going to register with the HIOW, who coordinate the Portsmouth Volunteer Passport, which makes sure that anyone that volunteers in the city, the qualifications are transferable. So if you've done a DBS check with one organisation, it will move to another. If you've done safeguarding training at one, it can be transferred to another. So we're going to have all of that in place, and we will have that bank of volunteers, and it might be an event. It might be the start of the Clipper race at Gunwharf Quays. Gunwharf Quays might ask us for half a dozen volunteers to be visible, helping engage the community at Gunwharf Quays. It might be the Sail GP events. It might be the Great South Run that we've just had. All those different events we can get involved with and help out. We can meet and greet the cruise ships. We can promote the city on social media. We can help other people run community events by providing our volunteers to support. So that's what that programme is.
Interesting.
So watch this space. From 16th of January, which is when the conference is, when we relaunch, there'll be lots of stuff online and going out about it, including the full film that was a trailer of.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to it. We actually played a part in that as well. We got asked by Mike down at Solar Sky.
You did.
And then, we were just popping along. It was good fun. It was good fun.
You were down at Fratton Park. And our very first TikTok video, which was Amy and Marianne on the team. No, it was Becca and Marianne on the team with Nelson the dog.
Yeah.
I believe you might have filmed that TikTok for us.
Good stuff. Okay, no, really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Really looking forward to that. Okay, so a community give backer, a community patron, if you will, you are.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are we to expect? Not just in 2026, but what we expect. How do the plans work at Shaping Portsmouth, and what are we to expect long term?
Okay, long term. So, Portsmouth's a great place to do business. Really great place to do business. We have about 1,000 new businesses start a year in Portsmouth. We have about 700 businesses fail a year.
Wow.
So we've got growth, but it's still small. We've got to get better at supporting our small businesses to get over those initial hurdles and thrive. So a big focus of our business pillar long term is on that support for businesses to help them thrive and survive and keep going. We've got a great team, Jane Lemaire over at the council and the whole economic and regeneration team that work really closely with us, or we work really closely with them. On that, we've got people like Solent Growth Partnership, SBSS, who do amazing work in that space. I think what you will see over the next few years, especially with the onset of devolution and a bigger focus on the whole Solent region, I think you'll see us all working even more closely together. I think you'll see a lot more collaboration in that space. I think you'll see a lot more support for businesses across the board, and the reach of that being a bit wider and involving people like the Isle of Wight, Southampton, more of Hampshire. In the education space, I think you'll see much more of a focus on skills priorities. I think we're already seeing a growing focus on apprenticeships and learning whilst you're earning. And I think you'll see that develop more. I think you'll see a lot less people going to university full-time, and a lot more doing things like degree apprenticeships, etc., and learning whilst they're working from the workplace. But I think that focus on the skills gaps, and again, people like Sterling Growth Partnership, people like the council, people like us all working together to identify and try and map clear pathways to address skills gaps. And we've got some really great businesses in the city that are doing that, especially in areas of things like advanced manufacturing, engineering, etc. And then in the community space, this is probably the less positive prediction, because at the moment, politically, I'm really struggling to see where growth is coming from and where a big investment in public services is going to be funded from. And the trouble is, when things fall off in public services, the third sector are the people that end up picking up the pieces. But also, if the funding is not there to put the money into those community organisations, they start to struggle. And there is no two ways about it. There are charities in this city that do amazing work and have done for years and years that are now struggling existentially because of funding. But there's more demand on them than ever before because there's gaps in the public service provision. How that plays out over the next few years, I don't know, but it's something we've all got to be really focused on. We've got to keep those organisations that do such an amazing job to support people in our communities going. And will that look more like the business sector stepping in to try and help those out because the funding in the public sector is still not there? I don't know. But the trouble is, if the funding is not there, it's difficult for everyone. I don't know the answer to that. But in a nutshell, I think you're going to see, especially with devolution and local government reorganisation, I think we're going to see people working together a lot more, which is something I'm pleased about.
Yeah. Uncertain times.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But when has it ever not been?
Yeah, trust. Well, Dave, that brings us to a nice close on this part.
Yeah.
And I've really enjoyed today.
Thank you.
Getting to know you a bit more. And I look forward to obviously watching closely and getting more involved. That'd be great.
Definitely.
And
it's great because you're doing great stuff yourself, and you know the programme showcases lots of different organisations, lots of people. So you are playing a really good part in putting that spotlight on the really great stuff that's going on in the city. So thank you too.
Well, thank you. And cool. We'll put a pin in it there, and we'll catch up at a later date to check in where you are.
Yeah.
And let's crack on with part 2. Cool. Okay, great. So, Dave, welcome to part 2 of the What's Going On show.
Thank you.
And this part is always the curveball, I say.
Yeah.
A lot of people enjoy this part, and it's really good. So, basically, what we do is we go out into the street and we ask a question. Now, I've not disclosed that question.
No, I've no idea what you've asked people.
Love that. And so feel free to watch it to the end. I don't think it's that long. I think it's 2 minutes. Or feel free to pause it and react, whatever you feel is comfortable for you. So let's just crack on.
Yeah.
How do you think Portsmouth will be by 2030?
Portsmouth seems like it's growing. There's more students coming over. Can't necessarily say it's going to go bad. I think it's going to go bigger. I think there's going to be more money put towards Portsmouth.
Do you know what? I've just come to visit from I used to be at uni 5 years ago, so I already noticed a bit of a difference. I hope that I've noticed some amazing new places that have opened up, especially around Gunwharf and areas. I'm hoping that's going to continue around maybe the town centre around here as well, as a whole, hopefully.
I don't know, that's a really weird question. That's one of those, I don't know how to answer that. I I don't know, probably better. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I think at the minute there's a lot of stuff that's getting better, like more shops and whatnot, so I think better shopping, I think.
Oh, that's a good question. I think Portsmouth's probably on the rise, so it's probably going to be better than it is now.
2030. I don't think you're wrongly singing. 2030. Well, 2030, it's quite far away still, isn't it? But a lot changes in that time. I think from a policing perspective, there's going to be a lot that's different. From our end on policies and, try and make some things like that, hopefully it's going to be down. We're trying our hardest on the policing end. I think the city and the council are working really hard to obviously get everything functioning properly and everything like that. So we're looking forward to seeing what they've got planned. But I think the nightlife around this area as well is dying down quite a lot. I think the student population is dying down. Obviously there's still students here, but I just don't think there's that much when it comes to the nightlife. So it's something maybe to keep an eye out for in the coming years. But yeah.
Cool. So apologies for the audio. But
You've obviously been stood near the scaffolders in Guildhall Walk.
we did. And,
There's a lot going on down there.
there was. And in post we'll do some little bits. But thoughts?
Interesting. Good to see one of my ex-colleagues there on the film, and a current colleague from the Guildhall in there as well. So, I think there's a lot going on in the city. I think there's a lot of good stuff. I think there's been a lot of good investment. I think as a local authority goes, we've been quite fortunate that Portsmouth City Council has been well run for a number of years financially, and is not in the position that a lot of local authorities are. So there is still good investment from them in the city, but it's the outside investment that's been brought in, and that's outside investment's always key to growth and improvement. So if you look at things like the sea defence work that's been done, millions and millions of pounds that have been spent improving the entire city's coastline all the way around, and rather than just build basic sea defences, they've really landscaped that well. And you see all these new developments. You've got PMC and Vivid currently working on the Tipner East development. So as you come down the motorway, you can see all the stuff starting to go on the left there. But there's work coming on the right as well. That will change the way you come into the city and the gateway and improve that. So, what will it look like in 2030? Hopefully all of these sorts of things will keep happening, these improvements incrementally, and it will keep getting better and better, But I think the fundamental problem in Portsmouth, and it kind of goes back to some of the stuff we were talking about earlier, is you've got some really, really affluent pockets in the city. Lots of money, very expensive houses, next to some of the most deprived and poorest communities in the country. And we've got to solve that. You've got businesses that are paying some of the highest earners in the country, in our city, but you've got people earning some of the lowest wages living here. And all of that needs to change. You kind of need to even that out. And it will be interesting. I mean, there's all sorts of theories on the role AI is going to play in the job market and careers, and but we know because they're published that the development plans that the council have got for the city in terms of what's going to be built, what's going to be renovated, all of that sort of stuff, they look pretty good. There's some good stuff going on in the city. So I think, there's people there on the whole. What I was expecting people to be a bit more negative. You got a lot of positivity out of people there. And that's good to see, because I think we're probably right to be positive about our city. I think it will improve.
What I will touch on then is some people who didn't make the final cut, let's say, due to technical difficulties, some of them did say they don't care.
Wow.
Another one said about the parks, and that there needs to be more green spaces as well. But what are your thoughts on that? I mean, I know we're next to the sea, but what are your thoughts on green spaces in
Green
the city?
spaces. So, we are currently working on a partnership grant bid with the council, with Creates and with the Hive around a programme called Climate Ready Portsmouth. So one of our 14 programmes is business climate change, and we've been working with businesses to educate them on their own carbon footprint, how to assess it, how to address it, scope 1, 2 and 3 emissions, how you sort of measure and influence those. But we're at a point where we've got to start looking at the impact of increasing climate change on our city. The sea defences work's happening because a 2 degree rise in temperature puts most of the city underwater. It's a necessary piece of work. But what does that do to your home, your work environment, hotter summers, your workforce? How, as a business, do you look after your staff when the temperatures that they're now having to work in the office are now increased? What happens when all of the wonderful trees that we have dotting our grid system city die because 2 degrees is enough for them to no longer be sustainable? So do we change the type of trees that we grow in the city? All of this work's been thought about being done. We have an event at North Harbour later this month, a Greener Portsmouth Partnership Conference, where we're kind of launching our new climate ready programme and how we're going to be working with businesses. But the council recognise the need for more parkland. The Northern Quarter development is, years ago people were talking about more shops and a bigger shopping centre, something like the Liverpool One shopping development. But we know that that's not sustainable anymore. So actually it's looking like better housing, more parkland, restaurants, things like that are. We know we've got to have that. You've also got this whole problem with storm overflows and the water. The sewage system, Victorian sewage system in this city just cannot cope with big storms. So whenever it happens, you end up with the water company putting sewage into or putting stormwater into the sea through the sewage system, which is not great. But there's been big investment in that, and one of the first things you do is suds and soakaways. You start, instead of taking water off of the roof of a big business premises or a school, instead of putting it into the sewage system, you put it into planting, you put it into trees, you grow the right stuff that can deal with that water. You take away some of your concrete and you put suds and soakaways in so that the water can run into the ground rather than concrete in everything. Those initiatives are really, really important. So I think that green piece, I think you will see, I would hope that in 2030 you'll see a much greener city, a much greener Portsmouth. The disappointing bit was your first line, that some people said they didn't care. Now, I'm hoping that there are people that don't live and spend a lot of time here. I would hope that everyone in the city cares about what it looks like and what our children will inherit in terms of where they will live and the state we leave the place in. So yeah, that's sad that people are that sort of agnostic about it.
I agree. I heard through the grapevine once upon a time that there was potentially going to be a financial district in Portsmouth being built. Was that just a rumour, or was that something that might come into fruition?
I don't know about that.
Okay.
I honestly I don't know either way. There's been lots of talks about different things and what we need, and certainly growing the financial sector, growing the engineering and the advanced manufacturing sectors because of that marine relationship we've got, and the growing space engineering and manufacturing work that's going on. Companies building great satellites and stuff in our city. So, there's lots of scope for that. I think developing the cultural sector, making this a go-to region for film companies, theatre, they're probably music to your ears, your space. But all of those sorts of things. So I think you've got to look at all of those sectors. Hospitality could be much, much stronger. We're a great tourist location. We've got some great hotels like the Queen's, the Marriott up at the north of the city, Solent outside of the city. But we could do with some more great places to stay. All of that sort of stuff. So you've got to look at the needs of individual sectors. But how will the city centre develop?
Yeah.
Interesting times. Will people try and put a financial region in here? Will the council move out of the civic offices? Because there's a lot of talk about a better solution for the local authority than those offices. So if they do that, what will become of all of that space across the square that is central to the city?
Interesting.
Exciting stuff that could be done.
Very exciting.
And of course, we have got a really thriving, it was mentioned in there, university that brings in a lot of foreign students, but a lot of students, UK students from outside the city as well. How do we keep supporting that? And because a lot of those students then go into jobs and to live here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they do.
Yeah.
Like
people that come to Portsmouth as a student and stay. You're a great example.
That's funny. So that's a big one. Commercial road. I mean, I hear the tone, but in Commercial Road, they've got a lot of space within the Cascades that could arguably be used as third space. It could arguably be used as creative space. So many different possibilities. As an organisation or a group that connect businesses and communities and all the rest of it, how can we utilise Commercial Road to enhance that?
The Commercial Road's an interesting one because actually if you walk down it, the empty shops, there aren't that many actually. There's not as many as you think. There's a couple of big ones, the Marks and Spencer's building, and I think there's a bit of an issue with asbestos in there that's obviously made that difficult to deal with. But it is, on the whole, everything's sort of well taken. A lot of work going on with Debenhams obviously at the bottom, so that's a big one. But right at the top, you've got city buildings. You mentioned Creates earlier, and seeing the beanbags in there and Urbons who are in there. But that is a building that was empty, derelict, earmarked for eventual demolition in the development plans that the city has got. But that's not happening at the moment. So what they do is they transform the space and they make it available to some good third sector organisations like Portsmouth Creates, like Portsmouth Pride, like Urbond. But you bring in some some main tenant businesses like Citrus Facilities who are in there as the main tenant. But that means that some of the smaller spaces can be let out to people like Impress Printing, really small husband and wife business, doing great for the city, did all the Baton of Hope t-shirts nationally.
They do our
great
t-shirts.
little business. Yeah, so I didn't know that, so that's good. Using spaces like that in that way, that's, fair play to the council for being forward-thinking enough to spot the opportunity in that building sitting there for years and just transforming it. So we've got some great enterprise and innovation spaces across the city. And I think it's looking for those opportunities. I think something that we were talking about off camera a little while ago was kind of around how you change education and political makeup. What does that look like? How do you empower the people to have more control over what happens with those empty buildings in our cities, rather than landlords who find it's more cost effective for them to leave it empty? How do you give people power to actually take control of that and put those buildings to better use and stop them being left empty? I don't know, but I think there's something, we were talking about what could change in constitution and how do you give more power to people and education and stuff. And I think that's a good example of that. Where you are seeing it is there's money coming into Paulsgrove and Lamport from the government, and those communities will have the ability to do that in those little pockets as part of that funding. But how do you do that more generally? But there's also a bit, isn't there, when we walk up and down Commercial Road and we say, oh, it's not like it was 20 years ago. But we don't shop like we did 20 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, you're saying, oh, I miss all of these shops. Why isn't it as vibrant as it used to be? And then you sit down on Amazon and have everything delivered to your home. Well, probably got to accept part of the problem there. And that means that places like that, your centres, then are reliant on the business that needs you to attend in person. Hairdressers, nail bars, medical things, anything that needs you to actually physically go in, they're the ones that are going to survive, because everything else we see moving online. So we've probably got to accept that to a degree.
True.
It's just the way things are going to develop.
Interesting times.
It is definitely. And you know, there's talk at the moment about business improvement district, which obviously the businesses in Commercial Road have the eventual say on, because it comes down to a vote. But that could go ahead, and that would give the business community in that area a lot more say and a lot more control over what happens in that area.
Watch this space.
Yeah. Watch this space early next year.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, Dave, any last thoughts on the video?
Last thoughts on it. I think the centenary project that's been running for a couple of years now, the Vision 2040 stuff that we've seen, what will Portsmouth look like in 2040? You asked 2030, but that was the project that kind of fed into the Team Portsmouth work, lead into the centenary celebrations. I think that's something we've got to focus on. I think next year, 2026, going to be a lot going on in the city. Really good opportunity for us to talk about all that is good and all that we're proud of in Portsmouth. Bring communities together, champion a lot of connectivity and understanding each other. I think it's a great opportunity for that. But I think we've got to focus on, you know, we've done 100 years. What are the next 100 years? Does the city look like? What do we do next? What do we need to put in place? And just remember, there is no they. There is only us. There is only us.
Strong words. Well, Dave, we'll end it there.
Brilliant. Good talking to you.
Likewise. Been really good. And we'll follow closely moving forward. Nice.
Brilliant. Thanks, Alec.
Nice, Dave. It's a wrap. It's a wrap, peeps.